What is going on, fellow developers? My name is Tyler Potts, and in today we're going to be diving back into some CSS basics and create this really responsive CSS grid using Flexbox. So as you can see here, as you break it down, it starts responding, it becomes 2, and then it finally becomes 1 on a mobile device. And as you can see, it grows and shrinks as you please. So you can do as many changes as you want to this. You can make it grow and shrink however you want. But for this tutorial, we're going to be doing that. We're also going to take it one step further and add in a simple but effective masonry, not exactly masonry, but kind of masonry-like grid. So some offsets to the other columns to make them look like they're not exactly in line, and it makes it kind of look a little cool. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video, guys. But without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so we're going to be starting off with an empty directory here. We're going to create our first file, index.html. I'm then going to create a folder called assets. Actually, I'm just going to do sass, and in that sass file, I'm going to create a main.sass. Now, if you don't know how to set up and compile your sass, I suggest you have a look at a video that does. I'm currently using it's called Live Sass. Live Sass compiler by Ritwick Day here, which allows me to just click watch Sass at the bottom and it will convert my Sass into CSS. So you might want to install that. We're then going to use this by just running in here. Let's just say margin 0, give it our resets, padding 0, and box sizing border box. We'll give it a font family, and we'll say Fire Sans. Oh, that's not it. Fire Sans, and we're going to say sans serif. Hit save, and now if I hit watch Sass, this is going to compile it, create a CSS file, and there you go. So if we go into this main.css, you can see it's a minified version here. So in our HTML, I'm going to do, using VS Code's built-in Emmet, I'm going to do !tab to get the boilerplate code. If you don't have Emmet, feel free to copy this out. So what we're going to do here is just say Flexbox grid, and then after this, we're just going to say link, and we're just going to say CSS/main CSS, hit save, and then we need to open up index.html with our live server. So you can open this up by just double clicking it, or if you're using the same as me, VS Code, you can also install live server, also by Ritwick Day, which is an awesome extension that allows us to connect our CSS in. Start a live server. Sorry, I was thinking of the CSS there. Let's right click and click open with live server. So on the left, it's now going to create us a new section. As you can see, it's blank. So let's just put in here H1 Flexbox CSS or Flexbox layouts. There you go. Flexbox layouts, just so we can see that's in there. Nice. So under here, we're going to create a main, and inside of our main, we're going to have something called a flex grid, and then inside of here, we're just going to have columns, right? And we can set other classes to this, but we're just going to use columns. It's going to be custom layouts you can easily just quickly apply. So you don't need a framework, you don't need anything else. You just need to be able to set up a code like this, and it's super quick, and it means you don't have to faff around installing any Bootstrap or Tailwind or anything like that with grids. You just got it all set up here. So let's run col, or we can call it column. I'm just going to call it col for simplicity. And in here, let's also use the semantic tag here and say article, because this would be a post. And in here, let's just say we have a H1, which says hello world. We can have an image in here. We're going to do them with different content as well, so you can see the difference. So we're just going to say placehold.it/300 times 150. You know what? We'll make this a bit more exciting. We'll say 600 by 300. So it's just bigger, and then we can scale it down. And then under here, we'll just have a paragraph that just says lorem 20 piece of, there you go. So now let's copy this and let's paste it out 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So we've got 4 blocks here of code. Now for the second one, let's just take out this paragraph. And for this middle one, let's take out the image. Just so we have a bit of difference in our columns, and it's not always going to be even, because your content isn't always going to be even. So we're going to make it so the tutorial covers that. So let's go in our main, let's close our CSS, let's go into our main, and in here what we're going to do is obviously we're going to set up our main here, and we're just going to give it a padding of 16 pixels. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I want all my main stuff in my grid. So if you're not using a main, you use something else. Let's say you have a container. Make sure you have a padding on that, because we're going to be offsetting the padding. We're going to be using minus margin to basically give us a grid gap without adding gap to the edges and making it uneven with the rest of the content, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, just follow along. We're then going to make our images display as block. And we're going to give them a margin of 0 auto, so they're center. Obviously, you probably don't want to do that in a global one there. And we're just going to say our max width 100% and our margin bottom 16 pixels. Just some default styling so they sit evenly within our page here. Now, we can actually shrink this down. We don't actually need it that wide, so we can open this up so you can see what it's kind of looking like. There you go. And let's zoom in one here, just so, because we're just using CSS, it's a lot easier just to go through. Now, we're going to say dot button. And I'm going to create a simple button with display inline block. I'm going to text align center. And I'm going to use background color sky. Oh, we can't do that. Background color sky blue. Just something simple. And then let's just give it a padding of 10 pixels, 15 pixels, a color of white. And let's just give it the font size of 20 pixels and a text decoration of none. This is just because we're going to add a button in as well. So let's go to our markup here. Let's scroll down to, let's say, let's make this one, maybe not this one. Let's go for this one here. No. Yeah, this one. Let's add a dot button in with a hashtag. And in here, we're just going to say, click me. Hit save, and there you go. We've got a button in one of them as well. So there we go. We've got different elements now, because these are all the elements you probably will have in your, layouts. So in here, we're also going to say dot flex grid, because obviously we set up our flex grid here. So we need to actually make this our grid. So this is going to be our container for our grid. So we'll just display it as block. I bet you're thinking, wait, this is a flex. But when you're on mobile, you don't want to use flex. You can use it and you can use flex column. But personally, it's better just to use display block to break it down, as you've got to add some separate styling. We're then going to say media, and we're just going to say min width 768 pixels, so the default iPad styling, normally a tablet styling. And then we'll go display this as flex. So if we hit save, you can see it's now flexed out. Let's justify our content to be flex start. We're going to align our items to be flex start. And then we're going to flex wrap. And we're going to make flex wrap. And then we're going to just give it a margin of 0 and then minus 8 pixels. Because our grid gap is going to be... So whatever your grid gap is, whatever space you want between your articles, you need to half it. Oh, I've also noticed I've done wrap wrong. You need to half it and then add some minus margin. So whatever it is. So we're going to be doing 16. So we're going to half it and do minus 8 here. So now that is that bit done. So that's our actual flex grid set up. Also, the padding top can be turned off for now because we're going to be using that for our masonry grid. Okay, so for our column, we're then going to say margin bottom 16 pixels. We're then going to say padding of 16 pixels. I'm just going to do everything I do here is mainly just for the aesthetic. So we're just going to give it a background color of salmon. Now this is just so we can see the actual boxes there. And let's just give it a slight border radius and just set that to about 16 pixels again. This is just giving us basically something to see. So anything I put under here now, under the width, is going to be stuff we actually need for styling. So let's say width. Let's say flex. We need a 100%. Now we can actually start this from our media query. So we're going to be starting our Flexbox just like we did here. We're going to be starting it from min width 768 pixels. And then we can say flex 1111. So that's not going to do anything yet. But if we now go underneath here and we say margin 0 pixels. Now we need our gutter width. So our gutter width is 16. So we need to half that again, just like we did for the minus margin here to make it 8. So we're going to say minus 8 and then 16 pixels for the bottom. As you can see, that's brought it in now. So it's now sitting in line. It's not overflowing off the page. We can't actually scroll right anymore. And then what we need to do is just say max width, and we're going to use the calc operation here to say 50% minus 16%. And sorry, not 16%, 16, which is going to actually equal our gutter width. So whatever our gutter width is, so 16 needs to be here, and then this is half our gutter width, and this is minus half our gutter width. So there you go. Now you can see they're sitting side by side. Now, these don't look very appealing, do they? So you see we've got line items here. If you want them all to sit at the exact same height, if we remove a line item start, you will see they will automatically stretch out. But another thing, the click button, most of the time you actually want that to sit on, you want that to sit at the bottom of your card, right? So in Flex, we could go up here, we can create something called a, let's just say a Flex spacer, or Flex has spacer. And then in here, we're just going to just say Flex direction column. We're just going to give it a flex of, a display of flex. If I can actually type display flex, and then we're just going to say align items flex start. So there we go, align item flex start, and then we can add something called a spacer, which is just going to be flex 110%, and that's just going to take up the remaining space inside of the area. So let's go to our one here. So let's say we have our button here. On this col, we could say flex spacer. Or has spacer, sorry, not flex spacer. So has spacer. Let's close this sidebar. Sorry, I forgot that was open. Flex spacer. And then on our button, no, in between our button and our text, we can say dot spacer. Hit save, and you can see it's now put the bottom at the button at the bottom of the page. But you might want the button to move over to the right side. So another thing we can do is we can add an align self end, and what we're going to do with this is just say align self flex end, just like that. So if we take this class and we apply it to our button here, you can see it moves it over to the right side on the end. That's kind of how the buttons are anyway. It says read more, or let's change it to read more so it makes a little bit more sense. Read more and hit save. Now you probably want this on every single one of your columns, but I'm just showing you how you could do it separately as well, in case, let's say, you have special parameters where it has a link. Some of them might just be like Instagram images in a feed or whatever you want, and then some of them might have separate links. So that's kind of why I'm showing you how to do it there. And there you go. Now we've got a little button down there where you can read more. That's cool. But let's do a little bit more scrolling. As you can see, we only get double screen, and actually it is responsive already. So we've got double, but let's go back to our main Sass here, and let's create another variable. So let's say at media min width 960 pixels. We're going to say flex 1. Oh no, sorry, we don't need flex. We just need the margin. No, again, we just need max width. Sorry, my bad. I was reading the top column here, and I was like, we need to copy that and just make it relevant. But no, we actually need to just copy this one line here. We just need to now, let's say on the 960 we want it to be 33%, so we want 3 column grid. We could say 33% minus, again, 16 pixels. Hit save, and there you go. Now we've got a 3 column grid, which goes down into a 2 column grid and then into a 1 column grid. So let's just add one more to make it 4, and it's as simple as taking this once again. Let's say 1200 pixels, and at 1200 pixels, we actually want 15%. We want 25%. So once we scale this up, you'll see at 1200 pixels, it goes to 4. Then at below 1200, it is 3 column grid. And then below 960, it is going to be 2 column grid, all the way down into a mobile size where we get into a 1 column grid. So that is, it's pretty much as simple as it is for CSS Grid. It's really good and really useful. But let's say we want to actually, let's say we want to do more for masonry. It's not a perfect masonry, but it's like an offset, so it looks slightly different. We can use nth child. So on the first one here, so let's go down to our smaller screen size here. Let's go to double. And down here, inside the first one, we're going to say and nth hyphen child 2n minus 1. So that means we want every second object starting from the first one. So we're going to go back 1. So instead of starting at number 2, we're going to start at number 1. we're just going to say margin top is going to be minus 100 pixels. Now, if we save that, you're going to see stuff's going off screen. So that's not cool. Also, you're going to see it's kind of stretching still. So to fix that, we need to turn align items flex start on. So it's no longer stretching. And we also, in our flex grid, need to turn on our padding top. And let's make this 100 pixels. And there you go. So let's push that down. And we've got our minus 100 there. But again, it's actually, this is still sitting on the wrong one. And you know, let's move this to about 150 down. That just gives it a bit more space for us to see. So it's kind of sitting on top, which isn't cool. It's minused up, but this one's still floating the wrong way. So what we're going to do is everywhere we have this, we're also going to add a margin bottom of about 116 pixels. Now that's the margin we take. So you can see we take margin top minus 100 pixels, a margin bot. And then we're taking our gutter spacing as well, which is 16 pixels, which is 116 pixels. So as you can see, it now sits as a masonry grid. But you can see these ones don't really work, and it kind of doesn't look right. So I think the best way to do a masonry grid like this, or an offset grid, I'm going to call it, is to make these all the same height. So instead of doing margin bottom, we could say min height. And we can give it some sort of min height. Now, you may need to calculate this. You might need to find the biggest one and make it that size. But if we just say 400 pixels for now, you can see, as we scroll outwards, it's now a masonry grid. But if you look at our 3-column grid, it doesn't actually work as well. It's actually kind of offset because it doesn't actually take in... It doesn't actually, 3-column grids is uneven, and because we're using a 2n, that's an even repeater, which means this doesn't work on the 3-column grid. So we just need to turn it off. So in here, we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it under 1200, just so we get it there. But also on this one, we're just going to say 2n, and we're just going to say equal to 0 pixels. There you go. So it's even, and we can do the same with the, so let's copy this media. Let's go at the top here and just say, turn padding top off. For that, we'll just say 0 pixels. And then if we copy this again, or this whole thing again, pull it underneath, put that back to 150 and set this at 1200. Hit save. Now, when we go back to our next screen size, you can see the offset is still there. And as we go down, you can see it's now there. So we've now got the masonry grid in play. Or sorry, the offset grid. I don't want to call it masonry because it's not a proper masonry grid, but it's kind of like an offset masonry grid. So there you go. So it works. You can bring it up. It looks right. But let's say we want more columns. So let's literally double our articles here. Let's copy them all and add more. Save. And there you go. You can see it works on this screen as well as when you shrink down. It also still works. And on mobile, there may be a bit too many articles now on one screen, but it works. You can also bring this all the way up, and as you can see, it still works and it looks good. So that is how you can do this cool, really nice, like sort of offset style grid where things are pushed down, some things are still up, and they all look about right. You can even mess around with the different spacing, so you can even minus a bit of spacing, you can add a bit of spacing. You can even try getting it to work with the correct height, so everything sits in line, but you may need to create separate columns for each one. But for now, guys, that is the simple tutorial of creating a Flexbox layout using some sort of grid without having to use like Bootstrap or any of the big framework grids. But yeah, so guys, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, leave a comment if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.